Hi everyone, myself Dr. Vinod PN. This semester I'm going to handle elements of civil engineering and engineering mechanics. So, in the last session we have discussed with the live session about the syllabus of elements of civil engineering and mechanics, as well as I have given a brief introduction about the subject. But those who are missed for the live session, again I'm sending the video session to know about the syllabus in the subject. So before starting with the first module or before starting the subject, I just want to introduce this what exactly the syllabus is having in this subject, as well as what all the course which comprises. See, the elements of civil engineering and engineering mechanics, which is having 70% of numerical and 30% is theory part. And what you're having in the second semester now, the course code will become 18 CIV 24, and the teaching hours we can see it is 2 is to 2 is to 0. It is nothing but which is having 4 hours per week, as well as we can see the CIE marks and SEE marks. CIE is a continuous internal evaluation marks, that is for 40, and SEE semester and examination marks is for 60. As well, you will write in the exams for 100, but that will be reduced at the end, will be to 60 marks. So this subject is having the 5 modules, and before going to the subject, now the course which is having the objectives and the outcomes. The first one is course objectives. For every subject there will be of objectives, what exactly the subject defines and why the student has to learn. See, there are 2 course objectives for the civil engineering subject. That is the first objective, to make students to learn scope of various fields of civil engineering, basics of civil engineering, concepts and importance of infrastructural development of the country. So the second one is to develop a student's ability to analyze the problems involving forces and moments with their applications, centroid and moment of inertia, as well as and the kinetics of bodies. So these 2 are the important course objectives of civil engineering subject. The first thing is the student has to learn which are all the branches or the fields which is having in the civil engineering concept, as well as and why it is important with respect to the infrastructure development in terms of a country, how it will be growing. And the second one is to develop a student's ability to analyze the problems involving the forces and the moments, as well as we are considering the forces and the moments with the application of that with respect to different geometrical property, how the material or how the property is going to be changed. That will be learned from the second course objectives. Then I'll start with the module 1, introduction to civil engineering. So civil engineering is nothing but it is not only a construction. It will start from planning. After planning we have to analyze and the design. After design is the estimation. After the estimation, then the construction. After the construction, the final thing, it is not completed. It is about the maintenance of the building for the lifetime. So the scope of different fields of civil engineering, which comprises surveying, building materials, construction technology and management, geotechnical engineering, structural engineering, hydraulics, water resources and irrigation engineering, transportation engineering, and environmental engineering. See, the civil engineering is a vast branch, and as well you should be aware of it. The first engineering branch which is introduced from military engineering. After the military engineering, it has started the first engineering branch after the military. It is about civil engineering, because civil engineering is a mother branch for all the engineering branches. And the civil engineering is a vast which comprises of surveying is nothing but will take the measurements of the ground to make it cutting or filling, to make it the ground to be leveled. And the building materials will be used for a construction. So which are all the alternative building materials is available in terms of economical wise as well as in terms of efficient wise. So we have to see which are all the building materials like steel, wood, soil, sand, aggregates, coarse aggregates. So there will be of different types of materials which is involved in building materials, and how effectively it will be used in construction technology and management. The next is about geotechnical engineering. Geo is nothing but earth. We have to study the earth materials like soil as well as rock structures in terms of a technical aspects, as well as structural engineering that defines in terms of a building structures, with respect to the components of the design. And hydraulics, water resources and irrigation engineering. Hydraulics is nothing but that will be studied to know about the fluid flow conditions and how effectively it will be used in terms of water resources, as well as it will be used for irrigation engineering. So water resources, how effectively the water supply as well as the wastewater water distribution and the wastewater treatment, and how it will be disposed safely, that all will come to in terms of water resources, what exactly the resources which is available and how best it can be utilized. The next is about transportation engineering. Transportation engineering that defines the goods or a man which has to move from one place to another place. So what exactly the mode of transports and how it is beneficiary which is to grow the country in terms of infrastructure. And the last is environmental engineering. Environment is nothing but something which surround us, right? That is solid, liquid or gaseous state, and how effectively the environment is protecting. So, and if it is affecting, how it can be protected in terms of a technical way. That is about environmental engineering. And the role of civil engineers in infrastructural development, effect of infrastructural facilities like on socio-economic development of a country. If you want to develop in terms of economical way, how exactly the infrastructure facility will be provided. Then we can see the second chapter. So every module there will be of two chapters. So what I said now, the introduction to civil engineering, it's about the first module. Then the second one is introduction to engineering mechanics. See the basic concepts of idealization of particle. So first of all, engineering mechanics is deals with to study the behavior of the material or the body which has to be in the state of rest or it is under motion condition. So the engineering mechanics has been classified in terms of three parts. One is statics, dynamics and kinematics. So statics will be studied when the static is nothing but the material or the body is under rest condition. So dynamics is nothing but the material which is in moving condition, or we can say it is in under motion. So if it is under motion, it is due to some forces like pressure force or compression or turbulence, whatever, or it may be due to gravitational force. So the forces which is involved, the material or the body which is in under moving condition, will say that will be as dynamics, or we'll say sometimes it will be as kinetics. And the next one is kinematics is nothing but it is to study the behavior of the material or the body when it is under motion but without considering any kinds of forces. So that is about kinematics. So these are all the three classification of engineering mechanics that you will study in other remaining modules. Next is about the force systems or the particle, continuum, rigid body. So particle is nothing but it will be defined as an object which is having only the mass but no size. That defines will be as a particle. And continuum is said to be it is a made up of infinite number of molecules packed in such a way that there is no gap between the molecules, and property of the functions remain same at all the points, which is that will be as continuum. And the rigid body is nothing but it is one which doesn't alter its shape. Rigid is nothing but it is fixed, which can't alter the shape. We'll say that will be as rigid body. So we'll consider particle, continuum and rigid body. We'll study the behavior of what exactly that property defines, and the if it is on the forces, what exactly that force. So first of all, the force is nothing but there is an action which is acting on the particle which tends to move. So when it comes to next part, what are all the classification of forces and how it exactly which is related to the principles. So when it is coming to the principles behind the forces, the as you studied in the pre-university education, it's about Newton's law of motion. So there will be of three laws: Newton's first law, second law and third law of motion, that will help you to resolve the component of forces, as well as there will be of theorems like parallelogram and Varignan's theorem, as well as we'll use the Lamis theorem, that will help you to resolve the number of forces or the different classification of forces. Yeah, module 2, it's about the equilibrium of forces. So free body diagram, Lamis theorem, equations of equilibrium, equilibrium of concurrent and non-concurrent coplanar force systems. See, in the previous module in the engineering mechanics, we'll study the types of forces and where exactly and how it is acting. So when it is coming to the equilibrium, equilibrium is nothing but it is a stationary body subjected to external force, and if the body is remains in the state of rest under the action of forces is said to be as equilibrium. But the body which is having the number of forces is applied as a sulfate or the reactions, or it may be the some other force. The analysis of equilibrium condition of the body is to determine the reactions with the adjacent which are all there in the contact. We'll say that will be as equilibrium of forces. And when it is coming to the principles which is involved in the equilibrium of forces, or there will be of three equilibrium forces which is used in terms of horizontal direction, vertical direction, as well as the moment. So moment is nothing but it is force into perpendicular distance. So that is sigma h, sigma v and sigma m. So it will be considered one particular point to find out the equilibrium condition. When it is coming to the friction, as we know, a friction is nothing but whenever a body moves or tends to move over the surface or the another surface, the body which opposes the motion of body is developed at the surface of contact. Such opposing forces which is developed is called as friction or the frictional force. So after that we'll study the types of friction and the laws of dry friction and the limiting friction, concept of static and dynamic friction. It's about the classification and the numericals based on that. Then coming to the module 3, support reactions and the trusses. So the first chapter of module 3 is about the support reactions. So in the previous we know what are all the types of forces. The next is when it is coming to the civil engineering, if you want to construct anything, then there should be of horizontal structural member as well as vertical structural member. If you are saying a beam, it is nothing but it is an horizontal structural member, and if you are saying a column, it is about vertical structural member. So when it is coming to the types of loads and supports, we'll study the types of loads. So when it is coming to the types of loads, there will be of simply supported beam, and there will be of hinge type of beams, and we'll say that cantilever beams and cantilever supports. There will be of different classification in terms of statically determined and indeterminate beams. So as well as based on that we'll be having the numericals. And then coming to the simple trusses, there will be of different geometrical trusses will be made in terms of a cross section. So for that we'll find out what will be the will use the method of joints and sections, which is help you to write the free body diagram to calculate what will be the analysis. Then coming to the module 4, it's about centroid and moment of inertia. So after knowing the types of loads or the types of beams and the types of supports, when it is coming to a particular geometrical property like rectangle, circle, semicircle, triangle, trapezoidal, we have to find out where exactly the center part which comes. If you want to do anything, then what you are having that property of a cross section which is having the centroid and the moment of inertia, that will be calculated here with the two theorems, that is parallaxis theorem and radius of gyration will be used. That will help you to resolve the geometrical cross section to find out the centroid, as well as in terms of x-axis or in terms of y-axis as well will be help you to find out the moment of inertia. Then coming to the module 5, it is about kinematics and kinetics. So as I told you in the first module while introduce the engineering mechanics, kinematics or the kinematics is nothing but it is to study the behavior of the material or the body when it is having under motion without considering any kind of forces. When it is coming to the kinetics, second chapter of module 5, it is also known as dynamics. It is to study the behavior of the body when it is under motion with considering of forces. So it will be there both, and we'll find out what is the average velocity, speed, acceleration or the variable acceleration, and again we'll use the Newton's law of motion, and based on that we'll be having the numericals. When it is coming to the kinetics, we'll use the D'Albert's principle and its application with respect to the plane of motion, and again with respect to that we'll do the numericals. This is all about the 5 modules of elements of civil engineering in this semester. So when it is coming to the course outcomes, we can see that the first one, before starting the syllabus, we have discussed about the course objectives. There will be of 2. So after going through the subject, there will be of a course outcome, or what you can say the program outcome. After successful of completion of this course, the students will be ability to do that. That is the first point. Mention the applications of various fields of civil engineering. That is the first one. The first module, which exactly discussed about surveying, building materials, construction technology and management, hydraulics, water resources engineering, geotechnical engineering, and transportation engineering. Then compute the resultant of given force system subjected to various loads. So if you want to find out the resultant, then we should use the equilibrium with respect to that, what are all the types of forces, and to find out the resultant we should know in terms of x and y direction. After applying sigma h, sigma v and sigma m, we can compute exactly what will be the resultant. Then third one is comprehend the action of forces, movements and other loads on the system of rigid bodies, and compute the reactive forces that developed as a result of external loads. This belongs to the third module, which is discussed about the support reactions. What exactly the forces or the movements which is acting on horizontal structural member or the vertical structural member, and how exactly the result which appears when the external load is acting. It is coming to the fourth one. It is about the fourth module, centroid and moment of inertia. The student has the ability to locate the centroid and compute the moment of inertia of a regular built up sections. And the fifth one is express the relationship between the motion of bodies which is having the forces or without applying the forces when the body is under moving condition. That is to analyze the body is under motion with the help of kinematics and the dynamics, or what you can say the kinetics. So this is all about the course outcomes, and this is about the introduction of civil engineering subject. So all of you just keep the syllabus copy which I already given in the class group. So when it is coming to the next starting the first module, all of you just go through with this video session as well as with the syllabus copy. Then in the next session I'll start with the first module, as well as given the first module notes in the group. The next I'll start with the first module classes. Thank you.